Imagine being arrested for a crime you didn't commit only to discover that the very people accusing you have secrets darker than you could ever imagine. Meet Laura Bennett. An ordinary woman with an extraordinary sense of determination. Laura isn't someone you'd expect to find at the center of a courtroom scandal. She's smart, grounded, and fiercely independent, qualities that have always helped her navigate life's challenges. But this time, she's up against something far bigger, a system corrupted by power and lies. What happens when the wrong person is framed and pushed to their limits? What unfolds next is a gripping tale of injustice, betrayal, and an unforgettable quest for the truth. This is a story about standing up when the odds are stacked against you, a journey that exposes the rot within the system and redefines what it means to fight back. Get ready for a roller coaster of twists, shocking revelations, and one woman's ultimate revenge. Trust us. You won't want to miss a second of it. Laura Bennett was the kind of woman who thrived on routine. Her morning started with a cup of coffee brewed just right. Her afternoons were filled with work and deadlines. And her evenings were reserved for a run through her favorite park. She wasn't flashy, her wardrobe leaned heavily on practicality. And her apartment reflected her personality, tidy, efficient, and unassuming. But beneath her low-key demeanor was a razor-sharp intellect and a knack for reading people. Life had taught her that trust was a rare commodity. And Laura had mastered the art of staying one step ahead. That evening, Laura laced up her running shoes, plugged in her earbuds, and hit the pavement. The air was crisp, biting her cheeks as she pushed through her familiar route. Passing dog walkers, couples bickering over dinner plans, and the ever-present shirtless jogger. She let her mind drift. Running was her therapy, her way of keeping life's stressors at bay. Just as she rounded the corner by an old, graffiti-covered bodega, a sharp voice cut through the music in her ears. "Ma'am, stop right there." Laura froze mid-step, her heart skipping a beat. Two police officers approached. Both white, their expressions rigid. The older one, a broad-shouldered man with an air of arrogance, spoke first. "We got a call about suspicious activity in this area," he said, smirking. "Care to explain what you're doing?" Laura blinked, pulling out her earbuds. Suspicious activity? In yoga pants and a hoodie? She gestured to her outfit. "I'm jogging. For exercise. Heard of it?" The officer's smirk deepened. "Jogging? Huh? You always jog near abandoned buildings at night?" Her temper flared. "Are you serious? What is this? A slow night?" Before she knew it, the officer motioned to his younger partner, and cold metal handcuffs snapped around her wrists. "What the hell are you doing?" Laura protested, twisting her arms. "I didn't do anything." "Tell it to the judge," the officer sneered. As they shoved her into the back of the squad car, Laura's mind raced. Something about this felt wrong, too orchestrated to be a misunderstanding. This isn't a mistake, she thought, her anger boiling beneath her calm exterior. This is a setup. The holding cell smelled like a cocktail of sweat, despair, and bad decisions. Laura Bennett was no stranger to bad days. But this was on a whole new level. She sat stiffly on the cold bench, her mind spinning as the other women in the cell alternated between shouting, crying, and staring blankly into the distance. Across from her was a woman with smudged eyeliner and a leather jacket that screamed trouble. "First time?" the woman asked. Her voice tinged with amusement. Laura glanced up but said nothing. "What did they get you for?" the woman pressed. "Jaywalking? Stealing candy? You don't look like the crack-dealing type." "Jogging," Laura muttered. The woman burst into laughter. Loud and unapologetic. "Jogging? Damn. Girl. You must have been jogging with a suitcase full of diamonds." Her name was Shelley. And despite her sarcastic humor, there was something oddly comforting about her presence. But Laura wasn't in the mood for jokes. Hours later, she found herself in a dimly lit interrogation room. The air thick with the smell of old coffee and stale regret. Sergeant Trent leaned back in his chair, smug as ever. A plastic bag of white powder on the table between them. "This look familiar?" he asked. A smirk tugging at his lips. Laura raised an eyebrow. "Yeah. I've seen something like that. In bad cop movies." His smirk faltered for a moment before he leaned forward. "You think this is a joke? You're looking at some serious time, sweetheart." Laura held his gaze. Her voice calm but cutting. "And you think I'm stupid? I don't touch drugs. And you know it. Whatever this act is, it's sloppy." For a split second, something flickered in Trent's eyes. Panic. Maybe? Laura filed it away. Her sharp instincts sensing there was more to his confidence than bravado. Back in the cell, Shelley greeted her with her usual sarcasm. "How was your date with Officer Dushabag?" "Productive," Laura replied, slumping onto the bench. "I told him his plan was crap." Shelley snorted. "Honey, they don't care about plans. They care about winning. You're just another notch on their belt." Laura stared at the grimy floor, her thoughts racing. Shelley wasn't wrong. This wasn't about justice. It was about power. And Trent? He was hiding something. His intimidation felt less like confidence and more like desperation. Laura clenched her fists. Whatever game he was playing, she wasn't about to lose. The courtroom buzzed with low murmurs as Laura Bennett was led in, her handcuffs clinking with every step. She walked with her head high, refusing to let the weight of the situation bend her. The air in the room was heavy, not with justice, but with a sense of theater. As if the entire trial was just for show. Sergeant Trent sat confidently in the witness stand, his polished badge catching the light. His testimony was as smooth as it was absurd. He painted Laura as a criminal mastermind, spinning a story so over the top it felt like it belonged in a crime drama. "She was lurking in the shadows," he said, pausing for dramatic effect. "Acting suspiciously near an area known for drug activity. When we approached, she was uncooperative. And when we searched her, we found this." He held up a plastic bag of white powder, his smirk daring anyone to question him. Laura's court-appointed lawyer leaned over and whispered, "This isn't looking good." Laura shot him a look sharp enough to cut glass. "No kidding," she muttered under her breath. When it was her turn to speak, Laura stood, her posture calm and composed. Her voice, however, was anything but subdued. It was sharp and steady, each word calculated to make an impact. With all due respect. Your Honor, she began, locking eyes with the judge. This is a farce. I'm not a criminal. And I've never touched drugs. This evidence was planted. Plain and simple. Trent shifted in his seat, his smug expression faltering just slightly. And as for Sergeant Trent, Laura continued, pointing directly at him, he's not as clean as he wants you to believe. The courtroom erupted in whispers, spectators leaning forward to catch every word. Objection! Trent's lawyer barked, leaping to his feet. Miss Bennett is making baseless accusations. Laura turned her gaze to the judge, her expression calm but resolute. Oh. Trust me. I have more than a base for my accusations. But for now, I'll let him squirm. The judge raised an eyebrow but allowed her to proceed. Laura requested permission to present evidence in her defense, producing a small flash drive from her pocket. What's on this? She said, her voice echoing through the courtroom. We'll explain everything. As the court clerk inserted the drive and the footage began to play, the room fell silent. What Laura had brought with her wasn't just evidence, it was a bombshell. The courtroom lights dimmed, and all eyes turned to the screen as the footage from Laura Bennett's flash drive began to play. The grainy black and white video, captured by a security camera near the bodega where Laura had been arrested, showed two figures clearly illuminated. There was Sergeant Trent, his broad frame unmistakable, standing beside his younger partner. But instead of patrolling the area, they were engaged in a much shadier activity. Trent handed a briefcase stuffed with cash to none other than the judge presiding over Laura's case. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. What the hell? Someone muttered, breaking the stunned silence. The judge, his face suddenly pale, gripped the bench in front of him as if it could save him from what was coming next. Trent shot to his feet, his confidence crumbling. This is doctored, he barked, pointing a finger at Laura. This is fake. Laura, calm and unshaken, leaned back in her chair, her voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Really, Sergeant? Because this footage came directly from the city's surveillance system. And just so you know, I've already made copies. Plenty of them. Trent's mouth opened, but no words came out. His younger partner beside him looked ready to bolt, his face a mix of guilt and panic. Laura turned to the judge, her gaze sharp. Your Honor, it seems that you and Sergeant Trent have been working together. And while I'd love to stay and chat, I think this is a matter best left to the federal authorities. As if on cue, the doors to the courtroom swung open, and a team of federal agents strode in. Their presence silenced the already shocked room. Judge Barrett, one agent announced, stepping forward. And Sergeant Trent, you're both under arrest for conspiracy, bribery, and corruption. The judge stammered, his composure shattered. I don't know what you're talking about. Trent tried to protest, but the agents weren't listening. In a matter of minutes, both men were in handcuffs, their smug confidence replaced by fury and disbelief. Laura sat quietly, watching as the two men were led out of the courtroom. One of the agents approached her and nodded respectfully. Inspector Bennett, he said, addressing her by her true title. We'll take it from here. Laura stood, adjusted her blazer, and turned to the stunned crowd. Her voice was cool, dripping with sarcasm. Next time, she said. Maybe don't underestimate the jogger. And with that, she walked out, leaving behind a room full of people who would never forget her name. As Laura Bennett stepped out of the courthouse, the crisp air greeted her like an old friend. The chaos of the trial was behind her, but the echoes of her actions reverberated through the city. The woman everyone thought was just an unlucky jogger had shattered a web of corruption and revealed her true self in the process. Laura wasn't just a runner. She wasn't just a Brooklyn local caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was Inspector Bennett, an undercover investigator who had spent months piecing together the evidence that would expose Sergeant Trent and Judge Barrett for the criminals they were. Her arrest? That had been the final push she needed to tie it all together. What they thought was a simple setup for an easy conviction had turned into their undoing. Laura smiled to herself as she walked down the courthouse steps. Don't underestimate the runner, she thought, the phrase echoing in her mind. Her story is a reminder of what's possible when resilience meets determination. Justice isn't always immediate, and the path is rarely easy. But even when the system stumbles, it always gets back up, and it's people like Laura who make sure of that. To all of you watching, let this story inspire you. The world isn't perfect, but we have the power to make it better. When faced with corruption, deceit, or unfairness, remember Laura Bennett. She didn't back down. And neither should you. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of resilience, justice, and unforgettable characters, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Life Mosaic is where we bring you stories that stay with you long after they're told. Thank you for watching. And as always, stay curious, stay determined, and we'll see you next time. Take care.